In the years following World War II, Washington viewed global politics through an anxious lens. American leadership at the time believed that if one nation fell to communism, its neighbors would inevitably follow. This fear drove the United States to intervene in Southeast Asia after French colonial forces were defeated in the First Indochina War. At the 1954 Geneva Accords, international powers agreed to divide Vietnam along the 17th parallel into a communist North and a non-communist South. While the U.S. backed a series of anti-communist leaders in the South, the North was led by Ho Chi Minh. Washington viewed him as a loyal agent of Soviet and Chinese expansion, despite decades spent fighting specifically for a single, independent Vietnamese state. By framing a localized war of decolonization as a global Cold War struggle, the United States miscalculated its enemy's motivations. Washington prepared for a geopolitical chess match against Moscow, rather than an insurgency driven by national survival. President Lyndon B. Johnson feared that appearing weak against international communism would destroy his presidency and his domestic agenda. Following disputed naval skirmishes in the Gulf of Tonkin in 1964, Johnson secured congressional approval to rapidly deploy ground troops and launch sustained bombing campaigns. To manage this massive deployment, Johnson relied on his Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara. A former Ford Motor Company executive, McNamara brought a meticulous corporate management style to national security. He believed warfare could be quantified, analyzed, and optimized. This chart tracks U.S. troop deployments against enemy casualties, the body count metric the Pentagon used to mathematically track success. Analysts calculated that if they could kill combatants faster than North Vietnam could replace them, the insurgency would eventually collapse. The Pentagon relied on mathematical efficiency and industrial firepower to execute the war. They assumed that a sufficiently high death toll would break the psychological resolve of the North Vietnamese. On the ground, the American military machine possessed massive technological superiority. Troops utilized a new generation of helicopters, like the Huey, to provide unprecedented mobility across the dense jungles and swamps of Vietnam. They could insert infantry directly into combat and call in overwhelming close air support. But the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese regular forces adapted to neutralize that technology. They relied on patience, blending into local populations, and utilizing vast subterranean tunnel networks. Prioritizing landmines, booby traps, and ambushes at extremely close range, they ensured the Americans rarely had the opportunity to effectively use their long-range artillery. Look at this bar chart comparing the military's reported kill counts with the CIA's intelligence estimates. Because promotions and unit evaluations were tied to these numbers, U.S. commanders consistently inflated the figures. In some operations, the reported number of dead enemies mathematically exceeded the entire estimated Viet Cong population. This data was further polluted by a blunt field logic. If a body was Vietnamese and dead, it was counted as a Viet Cong combatant. American forces won nearly every major kinetic firefight they engaged in, yet the strategy of attrition failed because it relied on an incorrect assumption about the enemy's breaking point. North Vietnam viewed the conflict as a total war for national survival, and they were willing to absorb infinite losses to outlast the American presence. In January 1968, the reality of the war shattered the Pentagon's optimistic data. During the Lunar New Year holiday, 84,000 North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops launched a massive, coordinated surprise attack. They struck 5 major cities, 36 provincial capitals, and dozens of military bases. Militarily, the Tet Offensive was a disaster for the North. After the initial shock, U.S. and South Vietnamese forces reorganized and crushed the assaults. They reclaimed lost territory and inflicted catastrophic, unrecoverable casualties that decimated the southern Viet Cong infrastructure. Karl von Clausewitz argued that a successful war effort requires an equilibrium between 3 pillars: the state, the army, and the people. The sheer scale of the Tet Offensive proved the administration's optimistic assurances false, breaking public trust. The visual impact of the fighting, broadcast directly into living rooms, shifted the media landscape. Prominent journalists like Walter Cronkite openly questioned the war's viability to millions of viewers, asking how a nearly defeated enemy could launch such an assault. By executing an operation that guaranteed staggering losses on the battlefield, North Vietnam effectively broke the American Trinity. They lost the kinetic fight in the cities of South Vietnam, but they secured a decisive victory in the realm of public perception by weaponizing American domestic politics against the Pentagon. In 1969, President Richard Nixon took office, promising peace with honor. Knowing that the war had become politically toxic, his administration initiated a slow, agonizing withdrawal of American troops, while demanding that South Vietnamese forces take over the bulk of the fighting. With withdrawal certain, the motivation for American soldiers to fight and die in a jungle thousands of miles from home evaporated. The military experienced a severe breakdown in discipline. Troop morale plummeted, drug addiction soared, units deliberately avoided combat, and hundreds of officers were killed or injured by their own men in fragging incidents. Back home, public support completely disintegrated. When Nixon temporarily expanded the war into neighboring Cambodia, mass protests erupted across college campuses, leading to the shooting of students by National Guard troops at Kent State and Jackson State. The subsequent leak of the Pentagon Papers confirmed for the public that multiple administrations had deceived them about the conflict. The American military machine still possessed its helicopters, its bombers, and its firepower, but once the ideological and political justification for the war collapsed within the United States, the physical forces deployed in Vietnam could no longer function as an effective instrument of policy. In January 1973, the United States signed the Paris Peace Accords, agreeing to withdraw all remaining troops. American negotiators privately recognized the agreement largely served to provide a decent interval before the likely collapse of the South Vietnamese government. Without the backing of American air power, the South Vietnamese army could not hold the line against a renewed northern offensive. In April 1975, North Vietnamese forces rapidly advanced down the coast, culminating in the fall of Saigon as communist tanks crashed through the gates of the presidential palace. This visualization highlights the catastrophic human cost of the two-decade conflict. Over 58,000 Americans died in the war. Beside that number sits the estimated cost to Vietnam, up to 1 million North Vietnamese soldiers, and an estimated 2 million civilians killed in the crossfire. Vietnam revealed the limits of managing conflict through numerical efficiency. Superior technology failed to defeat a nationalistic ideology, and the military machine could not function once the three pillars of the Clausewitz Trinity, the state, the army, and the people, fell out of alignment.